But right now I have a special guest, Kaylee Campbell. You don't know her because, I just figured out that she existed about, a week ago?
I think so.
Yeah, and so, this all started with a map in the social media arena, the discussion that we're all having online. Some map popped up, and it was approved H1-B visas for the last 2 years. And some states had a few. There were like 15 states that had 0, and Texas had like 5,000. And so something's going on here. And then you built on someone else's work, and you made the video that I was playing. I played this the last 2 days in a row. Let's go ahead and review this for people. I'm sure not everyone heard it, but
remember this map that shows a significantly larger amount of H1-B visas here in Texas than anywhere else in the country? Well, this is Chand Paravantanini. He's an immigration lawyer here in Dallas, Texas, and as of 2024 has approved over 400,000 H1-B visa applicants, and as of 2025 has approved over 700,000 H1-B applicants in Texas. Now you're probably asking yourself, where do these people work? Do they work at places like this? Cute little 4-bedroom, 3-bath houses that are registered to 66 H1-B applicants? They apparently run a tech company out of this house. This isn't just happening in Irving. It's happening in Irving, Plano, Las Colinas, Frisco, McKinney, Prosper, and more. Because North Texas has been completely overrun and overtaken by both Muslims and Indians. I passed my first mosque the other day. That was interesting. And you'll be glad to know that there's over 67 of them in the North Texas area. You gotta ask yourself, how many fraudulent businesses are you walking past? Because they receive government funding. And do you want to know where that government funding comes from? Your tax dollars. Every time you go to work, money gets taken out of your paycheck, it goes to them.
All right. So how many people saw that? Would you say millions?
I'd say a few million.
Yeah, and then there was a whole lot of discussion happening in the comments. Some people were pointing out some inaccuracies, so you went back and made some corrections. I'm playing this second part to the same expose.
In my video that's currently going viral right now, I had mentioned that there were over 700,000 H1-B visa applicants that were accepted by an attorney named Chand Paravantanini, who is an immigration lawyer here in Texas. And I want to correct something about that video and share more information with you. First off, that number 700,000 is how many H1-B visa applicants have been accepted in the United States in 2024 and 2025. With that being said, we've discovered more information about him specifically and the work that he's done within the DFW area and his process on approving H1-B visa applicants in Texas specifically. So Chand Paravantanini alone has a 99% approval rate, which is highly suspicious for over 22,879 H1-B visa applicants in the North Texas area. And while yes, this number is significantly lower than originally suspected, it still has really damaging effects on cities in the North Texas area. One of the biggest issues within this investigation is the fact that the wages that these companies are offering are correlating with way too many businesses, and the statistical improbability of it is very high. For example, 237 companies are offering a wage of $101,192. 210 companies are offering a wage of $98,904. 204 companies are offering a wage of $105,997, and 186 of these companies are offering a wage of $94,037. And if you thought that was bad, there are 9 specific companies registered to this address that are offering a wage of $94,037. And we're going to go check out that place tomorrow and see if they actually have business there. With all of that being said, the 22,789 approved H1-B visa applicants done by Chand Paravantanini, out of all of those, 3,391 of those addresses that are registered with these businesses are fake. And I promise you, we're going to find every single one of them.
Okay, and then if we go to the next video, you actually go to the house.
Fraud stuff going?
Yeah. And so you can see the rest of that. It's quite obvious what's going on here. H1B visa exploitation. I guess, technically, is this legal and just being exploited, or is this illegal?
In some situations, it is legal.
Can you move that microphone closer to your mouth?
Yeah. In some situations, it is legal. There's a lot of loopholes that they have to go through. Like I was saying earlier, they register at one house, they have a business in a different location, and then they have a mailing address in a third location. And that's something that I'm currently looking into more because it doesn't sound legal at all. And I'm sure there are a bunch of different loopholes that they go through. Once they move here, they file with the government to get the H-1B visa applicants to apply, and then they're have to provide those salaries to these workers. I'm just curious to know if there's, for example, 66 in one business, where are they getting their income from? Because I went and I looked at some of these websites that are IT companies, AI companies, and unless they're working with, different clients around the DFW area, I just want to know how they're making so much money.
So how did you get tipped off on this? Did it start with you for the map, or were you already on this case and you just built on the map?
So I do a lot of scrolling on X, and I do have to give credit to a bunch of different anonymous accounts on X who are doing this investigative work. But the thing is it's a very dangerous situation to get into because, one, you don't want to make any legal mistakes. Two, you want to make sure you have all of your facts correct. And so there are certain accounts that may not dox their name or their face, and they'll go in and do this research. You can check websites like the Texas Comptroller to look and see where they're registered within Texas. You can go to the H1-B visa websites and you can see the approval rates, the decline rates, and the salaries that they're offering for these companies. And I was going to make a video to kind of explain more so how everybody can do this, because those are the questions that I'm getting the most is, I'm not from here, but how can I do this?
So how did you get all this information that there's like, what was it, 100-something companies that had a salary that was $94,037? Like, that's such an exact number. Obviously, someone's just copying and pasting whatever they have to put into these applications to get more people in. So that's clear evidence of fraud. But where did you get that number from?
There is one graphic that has a huge amount of information on it, and at the bottom it has all the sources and stuff. I can't physically show you right now,
right.
But it lays it out to where it shows the applicants, the suspicious approval rate, it shows the addresses that are suspicious, it goes through and lists the companies where it has the similar salaries, and it kind of just lists everything, and then it has the sources at the bottom of it, so you can provide the factual information. But I actually just found that scrolling on X because it was one of those anonymous accounts kind of just posting the information, and they're doing all of the secondhand research, so the props also go to them as well. But they don't want to put themselves or their families in dangerous situations.
No, and that's why I have you here, because I've been making radio segments based on some of the work that you've done that was based on some of the maps that someone else did and some graphics someone else did. These stories are built on almost anonymous donations from around the blogosphere. And when it gets to a certain point to where one of them catches fire and goes viral, it's amazing to see how even more keeps getting piled on top of that. Now, we played a bunch of your work that was built on other people's work. And then here's a video from Priya Patel. I know nothing about this girl. She may be making all this up, but it sounds reasonable. And she was building on, she saw all your videos, and she's adding more to the pot.
We seriously need to eliminate the H-1B visa program altogether. So this is a map of H-1B employers throughout the United States, and it seems as though they have literally conquered the entire state of Texas. Why is this happening? Well, you have multiple immigration lawyers, each approving tens of thousands of H-1B applications. Take Chand Parvathani, for example, who himself has processed over 20,000 H-1B applications. And where are these people working? Well, they're running tech companies, trucking companies, body shops out of residential properties, single-family homes, all registered to dozens of H-1B holders. And guess what? Each of these companies are receiving government funding too. Yes, yet another group of foreigners that come here with the intent of stealing your taxpayer dollars and running a fraud scheme in their backyard. And if all that wasn't enough, the government helps them buy up our homes too. Yes, there are programs that help H-1B holders get mortgages with little to no lines of credit here in the U.S. They were even receiving lower interest rates and government-backed FHA loans until just May of last year. When hardworking American citizens are struggling to buy homes due to the cost of living, sky-high interest rates, and inflation, foreigners here on temporary visas should not be allowed to purchase homes here in the U.S., let alone receive extra handouts to do so. And furthermore, we shouldn't continue a visa program that has largely been used to defraud our government, steal our tax dollars, steal our jobs, steal our homes, and increase the cost of practically everything for the rest of us.
Had you heard that before, Kaylee Campbell?
I have not heard that video.
Okay, so I think definitely she is referencing your material because she used the number that you put in the correction video. So you had the original number that was floating around. You added it to your video. There were some corrections in the comments. You came back, you made a video correcting that. She was building off your number because she used the 20,000 for that same guy, Chand or whatever his name is.
Chand, yeah.
Yeah, good old Chand out there. So now that you hear that there's more being glommed onto that, it sounds like you got more work to do.
I think so. I think I got to get home and get to work and do more research for sure.
Well, here's the next question. why are we getting this from you and we're not getting this from government watchdogs or some auditing agency or whoever's supposed to be oversighting this?
That's a good question.
Next question, why are we hearing this from Kaylee Campbell before we hear about this from CBS News or CNN or Fox News?
I think CBS News, Fox News, most of the time when it comes to smaller cities, you see news outlets that want to remain neutral in the situation. They don't really want to get involved one way or another.
Well, on the local level, I guess so, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why they're not talking about it yet. I think that when more people start bringing it to light, maybe you'll start seeing it in evening news. But I think that when it comes to government officials, that's a question that you need to ask as well. I mean, you got to go look at the history of certain people in our government, see kind of what they've done, their terms and things like that, and then you'll start to answer some questions on your own.
So how long have you been doing this? Were you inspired by Nick Shirley's videos, or have you been doing this longer than that? Because this is a very Nick Shirley-esque move we're doing here. It
is. I did really enjoy the videos that he's been releasing, and I think that once people started talking about Texas, I made one video specifically, and it was talking about comparing Minnesota versus Texas, and it was like, Minnesota's a blue state. Not that you just automatically want to assume that they're being sketchy just because they're a blue state, but it's much easier to assume that there are things going on. You look at their cities, you see the mess and all of that. If you look at somebody like Texas and you see a red state, it's kind of like a shield that covers up what's going on within all of the individual cities around the area. And so within these cities, I think that they can get away with a lot more, and people aren't paying attention that much because at the end of the day, you see Texas, you see a red state, and people obviously have a biased opinion of Texas as opposed to California or Minnesota or New York.
Well, I think the overlapping of the blue policies in the red state creates a real funky incentive system to where if you're on Team Blue, you don't want to bust it because you don't want to make social programs and immigration and all these handouts look bad. If you're on Team Red, you don't want to bust it in Texas because the overlords that are supposed to be blocking or saving the taxpayers from this abuse are Team Red members. That would make Team Red look bad. So, I mean, that's kind of a terrible formula for catching fraud.
It is. It really is. It just basically cancels out.
And Kaylee, you did some work building on the map that showed that there's a ridiculous number of H1-B visas that are issued here in Texas compared to other states. You did the follow-up showing that this can't possibly be on the up and up because we have 66 businesses registered to a 3-bedroom house, and they're all there's hundreds of businesses paying the same salary. And anyone who actually goes and digs into it, it's going to be hard to come away with the fact that you didn't uncover something profound, yet you still have critics. What are the critics saying?
I think what the critics are saying right now, to me and what I've seen online, is kind of jumbling up the difference between legal and illegal. There are loopholes that can get you a business with a house and then a different location and all of that. And so that's something that I think if anybody's going to do it, including myself, needs to be looked into on a deeper level, because even if it's legal, sometimes it doesn't necessarily make it look good or make it look right. And I don't think, even let's say that it is legal for 2 Indians to go buy a 4-bed, 3-bath house in Frisco, Texas. How does that make the people who've lived there for the past 20 years feel? I don't think that's right or just to the people who kind of built Frisco to be what it is now, for these people to be moving in 2024 and 2025 to kind of take over the suburban neighborhoods.
Is there a word that they use for that? Because if white people do it, it's gentrification. But if it's foreigners who are antithetical to Western civilization, do we even have a negative word for that, or has woke sort of squished that out of newspeak?
I think woke's definitely squished that, because I think they try to turn it into something positive, like economy boosting and things like that.
Diversity's our strength.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, Kaylee Campbell, are you getting any threats?
I've not gotten any death threats yet.
Oh, good. Just wait. It'll happen.
Probably.
I get them on a regular basis doing this dumb shit. I don't even turn them in, like, I'm going to kill you. Sure you are. I think you're supposed to turn those into the cops, but I don't even want to create work for some poor dude who could be catching a real criminal, not just some butthurt person online.
They can't even do anything about it.
All right, let's talk about positive attention. The James Show's reached out to you. That's a big deal. You getting offers from any other people?
I have gotten a few. I don't know 100% if they're going to happen yet or not.
So we don't talk about them yet?
Yeah, we don't talk about it until it's solidified. You got to keep the suspense going.
So what are your numbers on that video? Because I've seen it on multiple platforms. Can we even track how many people have seen this video? Because even if it says 1 million people on YouTube, what about on Facebook? What about on Instagram? What if we tried to add all that up? What is your ballpark number on this?
I would say ballpark on Facebook would be 600,000. Instagram had the most, going past 1 million. Twitter right now, or X,
That's where I saw it.
Yep, I don't have a good number on that one because that stuff explodes very quickly. And then, honestly, TikTok had only like tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands.
Well, I've also seen a lot on Twitter, X, whatever the cool kids are calling it, how other people will take your video and post it under your account instead of, quote, tweeting your original video. So your video is being seen by more people than that number shows. But this is where it gets both exciting and concerning, because once you get big enough, you might get the attention of bigger shows and this might spread. But also once you get big enough, you're a target. They're going to start digging stuff up on you like they did on Kyle Rittenhouse, like they did on Nick Shirley. Look, Nick Shirley's parents were accused of fraud 20 years ago, so clearly he's a racist, or I don't know how that works. But, if you haven't gotten any threats yet or any problems yet, it's coming.
Yeah, it is.
All right, so what are you doing next?
So I'm going to continue to focus on North Texas. I think there's a lot of issues within Texas that have been uncovered based on this one situation. For example, there's a town called Granbury that I'm sure a lot of people know.
We know Granbury.
They just annexed over 200, I think it was 2,000 acres, and the people who live there think it's going to be a data center, but they're not 100% sure. And that's going to be a huge change to that city because it's a very rural city outside of Fort Worth. And the people don't want a data center in the middle of Granbury, Texas. So things like that are happening where that would cause more potential Indians to come into the country and come work at these data centers. And then Granbury's going to look like the next Frisco.
So how did you get started in all this? Have you always been politically aware, or do you even consider yourself political?
Yeah, I do consider myself political. I've always been super interested in it, off and on. I did politics for a little bit back in 2021 and 2022.
What does that mean?
That means I worked with Turning Point and made political content, had an old podcast.
Oh, I didn't know that. Look at that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But then I stopped doing it. I had my daughter and kind of stayed out of it for a little bit. And then as of September of 2025, that's when I kind of started posting more again. But I based it more so in like my faith and right-wing politics, but definitely wanted to come at it from a different angle this time around and sound more articulate and smart and intellectual, and making sure people can actually watch these videos because they're not, I guess, just stating things. It's actually providing information to help people specifically in Texas.
Yeah, because that's different than what I do. I don't actually go out and look stuff up and drive by a house and be like, there's a bunch of stuff here. I just comment on people that do. I'm sort of a secondary source or commentator. But what are you trying to do with this? Is this going to remain a hobby, or is this a career ambition for you? Are you trying to build to do this for a living?
I wouldn't mind it. I have grown to enjoy journalism a lot. I've always liked researching and investigating things. I used to be into crime and crime podcasts and stuff like that. So the investigation is really interesting and fun to me. As for turning it into a career, right now I'd say it's more so a hobby, but, having a blog one day or having my podcast come back or doing a new one, something like that has always been in the back of my mind, and it would be something that I'm interested in doing.
All right. Well, stay in touch with the James Show. Do you have some new videos that are probably going to come out in a week or two that I need to look for?
You can look for the one that I may film later tonight, which is about the investigation into these houses specifically. Not necessarily that they're fraudulent, but that people other than families are buying these houses, having businesses located in other cities, and then having their mailing addresses located in other cities.
And so much of this is, technically this is legal. Well, then we need to change that law.
Yeah.
That's the lesson here. Not that it's okay because it's legal. We need to change that law. And here's the guy that might do it, Brian Harrison, state rep. He just showed up. He's going to be on the next segment with us. And we've got the rhino list because the primaries are happening in like 6 weeks. Have you seen our rhino list that me and Brian Harrison put together?
No, you didn't send it to me.
We're on a mission to get rid of all the rhinos in the primary system, at least in the state of Texas. That's all we can affect. And he's coming up next on the James Show. Thank you very much, Kaylee Campbell. Good work. I hope to see more good stuff from you and have you on the James Show again.
Thank you so much.
The James Show Podcast.